We will be there in a second. 1 second. We will be there. Gathering time. So it's time to join for everyone. People are dripping in. We have some chilled music and a very loud keyboard of Daniel.
Sorry. Just sharing the event with as many people as possible, you know?
And that's ambience, right? It's like it, it's like we need to still use more the keyboard even in the age of AI. So do it.
Definitely.
That's good. Good. So, I would say we start. Oh, wait a second. I need to get my bottle. Ah, sounds like the red keys, isn't it? No, I'm ready.
Coolio. I'm just spreading it as we speak, really.
Me too. So I have.
Whenever you're ready, I am.
We are ready. We are even there right now. So,
Yeah. Very good. Very good. Hi,
hey,
everyone.
hello. That's a very spontaneous session today, isn't it?
It is indeed. Yeah. I love your invites, Adrian. Like, we're doing in the middle of doing something, then your invite comes, and yay, let's go live. Why not?
I think that is the charming thing of it. So we know what we're talking about. I think so, and and well, we have a lot in common. So we have communication in common because it is important for what we do. You are a communication specialist, right? Um, you work with leaders, right? I'm primarily my main topic is leadership, and we decided to combine those two words. And if we combine those two words long enough, it comes out that like, how to communicate as a leader. that's that's actually what it is. So, um, when we think about communication, first of all, so could we quickly define or get a definition by you? What is communication actually? Because I see out there that there's a lot of definition what communication actually is.
Well, when I am not sure, I always go back to the roots, right? Communication. So the word it comes from Latin, yeah,
Mhm.
communicare. So which literally means to put in common, to share. So essentially, to communicate means you have two, three, let's say two elements. They need to share something, and they need to find a common ground. Again, common, communicate. So it means really that I have something, you have something, we put them in common, and I make that something that I have, I tweak it, I change it in a way that you can understand it, and you do the same. So we find a common ground, we meet halfway, let's say, and that's when a message becomes something more. It becomes something that you and I can understand, something that we can both relate to, something that is now common. So we are communicating. There needs to be this two-way relationship
Mhm.
because otherwise, if there is on a one way, it's not communication, is drilling, which is something different. And if I'm not there, the feedback doesn't come. So again, there is no sharing. Yeah, so it's not like a bullet that your message gets onto me like a bullet. No,
Mhm.
there has to be that feedback. So it's a two-way process really. And I'm not sure if I've answered your question, but it
You did, because there's a lot of discussion now. It's like not a lot of discussion, but when people are talking about communication, it's like it's a business communication, it's the communication between people, peers, interview. You have everywhere communication, but in essence, it is always the communication between humans. So it is the dialogue, not the monologue, as you said, the drilling, right? It's the dialogue or the multilogue, if there are multi people, right? Which is going around people. So we have information, we do something with the information, and with the obvious information, someone speaking to us is mixed with the subconscious information, the the things we see in between, the gestures, the micro mimic things of the people, they all belong together. That's the reason why communicating in WhatsApp is a different thing than doing a stream together, or being really in front, right, of each other. So
Yep.
that's first of all, so that we have a common ground, what communication actually is. So communication is, I think, the most crucial thing to learn for basically everyone. But today we want to focus a little bit on leadership. Then we, of course, get back to the point. Then, what is a leader? So maybe we define that as well for a
Oh
moment.
yeah.
I had a good conversation today with a pretty good coach and leadership person I know from LinkedIn very well, and she said that, um, um, you know, if you want to be a leader, there must be someone who's actually following you. So it is like if no one is following you in a sense, then you're actually not leading anything, which means there is a form of motion in the terminology of leader. So you lead something, which means there
Mm.
must be direction, there must be vision, mission, there must be a journey, because leading means movement, so movement means journey. So normally, we have that most companies or something like that, we have processes. There's a little bit like we have those SOP processes. We do that every day. There's not much of a journey, and that's the reason why we don't see much leadership there. Because for what? There's no reason to move. In project based and software space and these kind of areas, we often have that type of the typical person who needs to build a company, who builds a product, becomes a coach, getting into solopreneur area, or tries to get a team towards position A to be in form of a old school development thing into continuous delivery, for example. Those for me are journeys, and those journeys need leadership in order to, or get out of a company out of a crisis, something like that. Because you have a change. Change means you need to move, so motion is included, and you have a form of not a goal but a vision. Because a goal is definable.
Mm.
Oftentimes, what you want to reach there is not definable. You want to change, so it's a little bit like the goal is to change in general, and for that you need people, because humans tend to have resistance to change, which means that if you have a group of 10 random people and there is not a very good reason, like a bear running behind you, no one will move towards the goal. That's right. And even if it's like the old thing, you don't need to be faster than the bear, you just need to be faster than the others. So we all have
That's the
these
idea.
typical resistance things in our head which hold us naturally back to waste energy wherever we can. So basically, not doing that. And there's where leadership comes in. Leadership is very connected to a form of motion, which means that we have a vision, we have a mission, and we try to drive other people forward. Which means, in essence, that other people, especially in the beginning, will start to see credibility in us, see in us a role model, a person with that vision, and a person who challenges us. And this is the reason why we think, oh, yeah, I know I need to make change. I actually don't want to, but this person is worth following. That's the reason why I named my podcast like that. This is, I think this person is worth following. And then you start to follow. And at some point in time, the people following you, adopting the mindset step by step, and you see things like ownership, maturity rising as well. And that's the point when you have the typical transition, when the leader isn't the obvious leader anymore, because everyone becomes a sort of leader in itself. So that's the ideal world of leadership for me. Um, Everything I just described requires communication, a lot of it. So
Yeah.
there is a lot of aspects like storytelling, like the typical dialogues. Many people try to do it with one-on-ones, and this is what I actually want to get to you. There's this idea of how to communicate in a group. Do you make a lot of one-on-ones? Do you make group things? How do you communicate these kind of things? This is, I think, a very interesting topic, as well as, of course, the storytelling aspects, right? So because
Yeah.
people love stories, and there are the story pattern of the three-act structure or the hero's journey, is understood by everyone on this planet. That's very interesting. That is basically scientifically backed, that even in the medieval era, someone would understand the structure as well as we understand the structure today. So that's something baked into us. That's the reason why people use that form of narration, so that we understand it. So it's a natural process. But somehow it is not very present for the people that there is a storytelling aspect behind that. And especially in Germany, when you say that's a story, is a very negative, tainted thing.
Normally,
Story
yeah.
is made up, right? But in reality, everything we do is a story. In hindsight, as soon as we are in the thing, it's a story. So beginning, middle, end, or even more things. So maybe we start with some topics there. In the audience, if you see something where you would have questions for that, there are some already.
Absolutely, yeah.
Just toss it. We will go through all questions. That's a promise, right? And starting with the first one, then storytelling. Let's stay with storytelling.
Storytelling.
Tell us something about what weight has storytelling for you as a communication super professional person. Do I actually have your book? I miss your book. I don't find it anymore.
No, should I send a new one?
I don't know what happens.
It's right here, you see, so I can send it over.
I even have it in the thumbnail, and I have photographed it for the thumbnail. So
we need to implement this, like, and pass real objects through the stream. One day we'll get to that. So basically, you want me to tell a story, right?
Exactly.
You want me to tell a story. I think
that's the AI.
Oh, you're back. Yeah, storytelling. Yes, storytelling for me, it's powerful. I learned it in private life. I learned it in professional life. You have events, you have facts, but the way you tell those things makes all the difference. I lived many years in Ireland, right? And Ireland is famous for telling stories. People are famous there for telling stories. It's true. They think about the theater, think about the comedy. You have certain events that when you strip them to the bones, they're similar. One thing may happen to me, to you, but the way you tell it makes all the difference. And this is valid also in the professional life, because I can tell you, yeah, I worked here, I worked there, and I learned this, I learned that, and now I do this, which can be really boring, yeah? And I'm not telling you anything. Now, today we have this technology, we have AI, so everybody's able to put together a fantastic CV, a story, a cover letter, an introduction. You can do all these things, brilliant things. Then one day you have to be in front of a recruiter, or you have to talk to a client, and suddenly you can't use AI anymore. So the way you tell things will make all the difference. Yeah, you could use AI, but ultimately it's going to be if you're online, it's going to be your talking head. And if you're live, it's going to be your full person in front of another person, right? And so what you're going to do there. So the real differentiator is how you say things, and how you build it in a way that, for example, it's clear your learning process. So I did this 3 or 4 different courses, certifications, so that I could reach the point that I wanted to reach. Or when we talk about problem solving, I am well versed in problem solving. What does it mean? Tell me a story. So I had this problem, and you can imagine how hard it was, and it made everybody worried, and we felt overwhelmed by it. But then we decided, okay, let's stop. Let's analyze the situation. So you see, like, you're telling a story now, and you are somehow shaping it in a way that it becomes easy to understand, and people can connect. Remember what we say about communication earlier on. So we share things, we put things in common. So I want to tell my problem in a way that I share the pain, I share the risk, and then I also share the solution. And if I am in a job interview, you talked about the hero, I need to be the hero there. Not because I want to boast, I just want to say, yeah, that was the problem, this is how I analyzed the problem, and this is the course of action I took. The result, well, we solved the problem, everybody was happy, and we received, praises from the customer, whatever. So the result. So long story short, right? You can have a sequence of events, but the way you build a narration around those events makes all the difference. Mm-hmm. And talking about leadership, leaders are great storytellers, because what's the difference between a senior person in a role and a leader. A senior person is great at doing their job. They have loads of experience, they can do things easily. A leader perhaps can do the same things, but is able to tell people and to share. Say, this is how I went through the pain, how I went through the problem. This was my path. This is how I fixed this. How maybe a senior person can't do that. It can physically do the thing, but is not able to share it. And so that's, in my opinion, that's the difference. So this is why storytelling it is important in communication. Yeah. So again, it's like a stream of consciousness in a way, because you ask me questions and I have these ideas. There's no fixed answer, of course, but I have a strong feeling that storytelling is going to be the differentiator in the age of technology and in the age of AI.
I think so as well. As long as you can narrate the story yourself, so in front of another person, or like that the proof that like we do right now, we are no AI avatars right now, so that's obvious. I hope it's obvious, and I think the storytelling aspect. So AI can still tell stories as well. So if you tell we have this issue, it basically pulls a story out of thin air. What I saw with AI so far is that AI isn't able to replicate the emotional part of a story. So, which means that it uses the patterns, as it always does, the patterns of everything it learned, and tries to convince you as a human. And this is where we sense, oh, it must be AI. It's a little bit like it's the subconscious, the thing in between, the lines in between make no sense to us. This is not how we narrate stories. So that's the point of, it's like I agree. So a leader needs to be able to be very good at it, and that's what is the key differentiator. Because every time or saw myself in the past when we were in let's say meetings with clients, partners, colleagues, and these kind of things, you clearly could see who was in a leader role and who wasn't. There were the more silent people, the people you need to ask for feedback, and the people you need to stop giving feedback. It's a little bit like that. So the people you need to stop giving feedback, they're very likely in the characteristics of being a leader or becoming a leader on some point in time, because they do something which is actually to lay out in the room right now the story, and not the story, the journey we are on, right? Or what it is, maybe it's a business negotiation, maybe it's a path of how to bring a product together on the market with another company. Those are journeys, and if you can project these into the heads of everyone, and everyone sees the story in front, they see, oh, we are on that right now, we are the protagonists. There may be an antagonist, there's a enemy company which we need to push away or something like that. You suddenly feel as we are not strangers anymore. We are basically fellows on the same journey, and we need to bring that ring to the, and you know what I mean. It's a little bit like this idea behind that, and I think I have never saw good leadership when this wasn't a part of it. And personally, I think that's the reason why so many leaders on LinkedIn who really teach other leaders use storytelling on a daily basis in posts and these kind of things. Because read the posts of each and every one of us, or the videos we do, it is always packed into a story. So we tend to talk in a story way every day. So we talk about an issue, and we always get the people into, now imagine you would be like that, how do you do these things? So we always, it's not like an abstract documentation of an issue and a solution of an essay of someone. It is like we try to be already that person who leads others and inspires others. At least I try to do this. Or do you agree there?
Well, I mean, I would always go back to the initial definition. So we spoke about communication, but leadership has got many things in common, because if it's not two ways, it doesn't work. So if I come here and I try to lecture people, it's one way. It's going to feel boring. Maybe it's going to feel, I don't know, not so interesting. But storytelling makes it two ways. So it allows to put things in common, it allows to share, and it allows to help people identify. Um, so Maria has a comment. She says, leading means actually someone wanting to follow you, which is exactly this. It's not only me talking, is the other person receiving, then the other person giving feedback, and it's me reacting to that feedback. And it's a continuous process. That's communication. Leadership works in a very similar way, because if I want to be a leader, I need to communicate in a way that the other people receive that, are able to give me feedback. So it has to be easy. Well, actually, not easy. It has to be simple. So if I have this great idea, but I'm not able to explain it, then the other people cannot relate to it, and they're not able to give me feedback. So there is an interruption there, a breakdown. We can't allow that. So leadership makes all these things smooth. So there's message, message received, feedback, reaction to feedback. It's a continuous exchange, in my opinion. And so this is why it makes sense to study communication, study leadership, together with, for example, because this is what I do, for example, with studying a new language, right? So we're not native English speakers, we're speaking English here right now, but normally what you do, okay, today I study English, then tomorrow I have my leadership class, or then I have my communication class. The idea would be to take the next step and merge all of that. So it makes sense, for example, if we are not a native English speaker, study the language together with communication sort of approach and tools, as well as leadership insights. So that's how you build something valuable, in my opinion, because we were raised with the idea that you learn things in silos. You have, today I have, first I have maths, then I have, I don't know, literature, and then I have PA. But what if you merge the topics? Why not learning, for example, maths with your body? Yeah, so moving around the room, so these kind of things. And with communication, leadership, language, they can all work together. And again, this is going to be another differentiator, in my opinion. It's that will be more and more useful in the future.
When you would like to become better in storytelling, to wrap up storytelling a little bit with a takeaway, what would you say is the number one thing when we want to become better, in more confident, of course, in standing in front of a group of people and catching them, hooking them by being able to narrate this story and project this story and this journey into their heads? How would you do that? How would you help a person becoming better?
Well, there is a key word: empathy. So if you want people to relate to your stories, you need to think and you need to understand who you're talking to. So it doesn't matter if you have great ideas, great stories, if you don't understand who's in front of you. Once you understand people, then you can tell your things in a way they also can relate to. So that's the first thing I would say. So don't come from a position of I tell you something. It's more like, you guys want to listen to me. What should I do to make this interesting? So that's one thing I would say. And another idea would be to start small, as usual. You can pretty much turn everything into a story. There's some simple tasks. I use the story cubes, for example, that they help you create stories from pictures, from images. But you can open your bedroom window and look at what's happening outside and narrate what you see, in a way. And then so if you practice this long enough, then it becomes natural to you, and you can make an interesting story out of nothing pretty much. And that's great practice. So in terms of recommendation, I would say empathy. So try to understand who you want to talk to.
Mhm.
That's you have to have that clear, because you can't be good storyteller for everybody. And then practice a lot, meaning try to narrate things and build stories around that. So you can practice with pictures, with random pictures, for example. I do it very often with my son. He loves it. So we throw the dice and then we build stories around that. It sounds silly, but it's great because it makes your brain work. And then at the same time, practice with simple things like, okay, I had a problem today at work. What did I do? Answer the question and then try to imagine you want to explain that to someone who wasn't there, who maybe does the same job, and so make it relatable in a way. So you wouldn't believe what happened to me. And if you apply these things, the next follows naturally, which is emotions. If you wanna make it relatable, you add emotions. So how did you feel? We had this problem. I felt terrible because
Mhm.
potentially the problem could have had an impact on the revenue, on the new project, whatever, on the process flow. You know that. So we felt we had a big risk. We were in trouble, blah blah blah. And then the journey you went through and how you felt at the end of your journey, a sense of relief, a sense of achievement. So emotions are play a big part in there, because as you said, AI cannot build emotions, can
Mhm.
mimic, maybe can try to mimic emotions, but you know how you felt. So start talking the language of emotions. And this is why I mentioned, learning language, communication, and leadership at the same time truly helps, because you can also learn the language of emotions and you can build that kind of language which works really well, even in business contexts.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I like the idea of the relatability aspect to focus on that one as well. So when I'm in meetings, and there are a lot of people there, oftentimes software developers tend to be, let's say, less noisy in those meetings, and I often have the feeling that they drift away. There's a little bit, they have still those five issues, and they can't stop thinking about these. Sometimes they do a little bit of work while they listen, and then after the meeting you talk to them and no one really following the actual conversation of the, let's say, the business people there, these kind of things. And that's a little bit of a disconnect there. It's maybe specific to my area, but I see that regularly. And what I changed was the relatability. So when it's my turn, and I often start even a meeting with getting everyone together and describing the journey we are on. And then I put everyone and make an example of this. I name a person and describe the role of the person in that story. What is the outcome? What will be the issues? These kind of things. A little bit like a role playing thing, but I'm just describing now. It's a little bit like in a pen and paper world, which I've played a lot. And in the beginning, you describe these things and you take it away for others. So you introduce everything. And that creates this trigger in the head because we react to storytelling. That's the reason why we love to listen to audiobooks and these kind of things, or movies, because our brain then connects, as you said, right? We are compatible and we phase away into that story. Suddenly, all the distractions are gone and your mind focuses on that one because I'm part of it, which trigger the ego. The ego wants to be part of something. It's a meaning. I have a meaning. I have a purpose on that journey. Suddenly I'm connected. Otherwise, I'm just the developer who was caught or brought into this meeting to support maybe a little bit there, but I can still work on these kind of things. And that is what I, as a small example, saw myself or learned myself how putting everything into a story actually gets the attention of the people and maintains the attention much better than actually just go for, yeah, hello, good, here are the numbers, let's talk about them. That's not good.
Terrible, yeah,
That's
terrible,
not
yeah.
good. Don't do that.
Nope,
That
never works.
And then it's a little bit like, we have discussed the numbers. No one is remembering the numbers because no one is connecting that to emotion or feelings. And that's one of the things I learned as well. People connect other people and discussions to emotions. That's what sticks longest, right?
Yeah,
The who is going first, the what is going second, the emotion sticks. So you have an emotion of a credible person who is with you on a specific journey. That is what sticks, not exactly what you have talked with that person. And in a larger context, not even that this was this person, but this group of persons, which is it's very important to create this idea of a team and a fellowship onto a journey, and you want to have shared ownership. You need to be part of a group and not five individuals working on individual tasks. So you need to get to break the idea that we are individuals, but we are a group of fellows on that journey with a common goal. So let's share the responsibility. That goes hand in hand for me with communication.
yeah. Emotions. I mean, numbers are can be boring.
Yeah.
There's been a 20% increase in sales, or there was a dramatic increase in sales. See, like adding a simple word can, the word dramatic, people go, oh, dramatic, what does it mean? So it's emotion related, you see. That's the kind of thing. So tweaking the language, it starts from there, you know. It starts from the language, and then it gradually expands to what the message and the relatability, the involvement, the engagement. That's the idea.
Okay, then I would have another topic for you, because it's so you're giving that great answers, and I really like to get your take on what the modulation of voice actually means to a conversation where actually you get the attention back of everyone who is watching that stream right now and lost the attention because we went a little bit monotone in what we've just. But now we are back, and now everyone is listening to you, Daniel. How do you actually modulate your voice, and why is that important?
Yeah, intonation, right? Intonation, emphasis, strategic pauses. That's the next step. It's still part of communication, because it's not only the spoken language, it's the gestures, it's the body, and of course it's the tone. So this is something that when you, for example, when you learn a language, you never really consider. But each language is a different melody, different music, and it doesn't make sense to try and use the melody of one language and use it with English, with German. It just creates a mess. So again, taking a step back there, it would mean intonation. It means catching the attention, passing the message clearly, being assertive or being open, or creating suspense. You can do anything you want with intonation, and you do it you eventually do it in a natural way, but you have to start by learning the basics. Yeah. So what does it mean to use effective intonation? I'm making a pause now because I've asked a question, and the idea, you want to leave people hanging, so that then when you answer the question, people will remember. So what does it really mean to use your voice effectively? And then you explain it. It means making strategic pauses, going up or going down with the pitch, with the volume even. You wanna create suspense, you go up. You wanna be assertive, you decline, you fall. So this is what it means, yeah. And you simply can't ignore these things if you want people to relate to what you say, if we want people to follow you, if you want people to understand what you're talking about. And yeah, in a way, it goes together with fluency, right? But at the same time, it's something that you can learn in parallel. Again, it doesn't make sense to to separate the learning field. So I need to learn a language, then I'll work on intonation, then I'll work on leadership. It goes all together, in my opinion. This is why, and this is why many people study, for example, study a language for years, and then they're not able to lead a meeting, for example, or they're not able to present effectively. They're not able to go live on camera, because it doesn't make sense to study a language for 10, 12 years and not try these things. Yeah. Just to give you an example, right, to work on intonation. When I was still working with teenagers, that teenagers typically in Italy go through primary, secondary, and then high school. So they have English every year since they are 6. So that would mean 8-9 years of English, and then they're not able to have a conversation, or they still. So put them on camera and ask them to tell something in English. That's how you build that approach to storytelling, but also to intonation. Because then you watch it back and you compare it with, I don't know, with other people, with the other classmates, and you start building a different skill there. So really, intonation is it's another way to convey a message in an effective way. Okay, not only the words, but how you use your hands, for example, how you that's body language, but it goes together with intonation, because hands help you when you want to go up, you want to flag some keywords that you're saying, and you can use your hands to help you, but also to help your audience relate. And when you want to be assertive, see, so you mix body and intonation. So it's a powerful tool. And all great speakers, no matter the field, no matter the specialization, use intonation. If they're fast, if they're slow, there is always intonation involved. I love watching Neil deGrasse Tyson, the astrophysicist.
Yeah.
He speaks clearly, slowly. He uses intonations, he uses this up and down, but at the same time he's slow. So what does it mean? What does it tell us? That the myth that fluency means speed, it's wrong. You don't need to be fast to be fluent. You need to be clear. You need to use intonation effectively. And you see, that's when people start listening to you. That's when you start influencing people. Not to become an influencer, of course, but to build that connection, to communicate on 365 degrees. 360 degrees, sorry. I always mix it up with the days of the year. 360 degrees. Yeah. But you know what I mean? 360 degrees. So you communicate with your words, with the tone, with the hands, with the way you're physically present, etc., etc. Yeah. So again, another long answer, but these things are, I'm passionate about these things, as you can imagine. And so that means long answers.
When you are now in, let's say, one-on-one meetings, right? We have now spoken about intonation, speed and pace and these kind of things. Now we're getting into actual conversation. Some people here in chat, when I see the names, they have their company names sometimes in like AWS. I see someone from DigitalOcean. Now you're in an interview process, you have your weekly, your monthly, your quarterly, whatever kind of meeting you have with a specific person. You are a little bit, let's say, nervous in form of, let's say, in the POV of the in the employee thing, or on the other side, you are a little bit nervous as well because you are the managing person and you actually don't like to do this kind of things, but you need to. No one actually wants to get there. How can these two aspects now, intonation and storytelling, help you to actually make a better outcome for you as on each side, right? So for you as a human, in a one-on-one meeting where things matters, where where people are normally more monotone, right? Would you say use storytelling and intonation in those kind of meetings, or would you say, I don't know, maybe not?
Well, intonation for sure, because if I am flat in a one-to-one, it means that I'm not interested in whatever we are doing there. But maybe your performance review will come after that meeting, you know? So the idea is you always want to leave to make an impression, even in your one-to-one. And it doesn't mean that you need to act in there. It just means that you want to identify your goal. What's the ideal outcome of this one-to-one that you're having? Do you want, for example, okay, if you are the employee, do you want your manager to remember you for something? So tell them what you're doing. Tell them you working on this interesting project. Tell them you have built something nice, you know, because maybe they don't know. So quick story around the product you're building, around the problem you've just solved. And you tell it with intonation, which means that you believe in what you're saying. So the other person goes, okay, he's telling me something I didn't know, and they actually believe in that. So great. So this is why a little bit of intonation and storytelling would help you also in a one-to-one situation. And if you are the manager, maybe they dragged you in there. They dragged you there. They didn't want. They imposed those one-to-ones because you have to have one-to-ones. You're the new leader, so you have to talk to each one of them. And it's not a right approach, of course, because you're a leader. You have to talk to the people you're working with. So again, intonation. How do you want to talk to the employees? Do you want to connect with them? So do you want to be welcoming? Do you want to show what you care about? What do you want to show? I don't know, what is the message? Okay, and that comes back to intonation and again storytelling, because you want people to connect with you, so they need to know your story. What do you come from?
Mm-hmm.
Do you come from the team? Okay, they know you, but they don't necessarily know the journey you went through to go from, I don't know, developer to leader, for example, or from service delivery coordinator to team leader, this kind of things. So it helps, definitely it helps. And I would never, I made this mistake back when I was a junior. I used to dread one-to-ones, and I always went like, they're useless anyway, because I go there, we go through this set of questions, always the same, and nothing changes anyway, so why bother? And that means that you are immediately flat, monotone, and not interesting. So easy to bypass. When you understand that you simply can't afford that, then things change. And then you say, okay, let's maybe try to use the one-to-one in an effective way. So what am I doing? What am I working on? What are my concerns? What are my problems? Why am I here, really? Okay, that's the $1 million question. Where we go? Why? Why am I?
If both people, manager and employee, right, ask that in the same room in a one-on-one conversation, well, you need to work on culture and mission and vision.
That's it. Yeah, that's true. But that's the kind of questions you want to answer, and they immediately give you your story. So okay, I'm going to a one-to-one. Why am I going to that one-to-one? And then you have your story. I'm going there I want to have a career. I want to have a salary increase. So how do I get there? And then you start having that conversation. I want a different role. How do you start that conversation? Through a story. So I worked on this, I worked on that, I built this expertise, I'm starting this at the moment. How can we put all of this into a career path?
The people I wanted to work with as an entrepreneur, an employee or business partner, something like that, the people I intentionally wanted to work with, or with Page Bar, the partners I wanted to work with, I tended to, in the one-on-one conversations where I want to convince the people, I try to give them always the, let's say, the outlook of what actually happens, what is their role, the same as in the meetings. It's a little bit, I use the opportunity of a one-on-one, no matter if it's in a business context, whatever context, is to actually, I have a personal vision, I have a personal agenda, right? And as a leadership person, I should have that. So I should have an own agenda which I push forward. That agenda must be aligned with a business agenda. And when I have that, I can use my personal drive coming out of my subconscious mind. That's now a little bit spiritual, but it is like that. So we need that. This is the inner drive. This is our why. So we need to have that why. We shouldn't have not a why. So a purpose, why we're there. And then we push it forward, but we need to get the people on board, which means that if you want to have or want to work with someone, for example, on a startup, on a new company, you need to have a real good story. When you are the person who has the vision and you want to get someone who's supporting you for the first and is with you on power, even pulls you a little bit forward, right? You need to give a very good reason, a very good vision, so that the person can align with your vision. So you need to have a shared one. It must be intriguing, it must be interesting. And the same is with an interview or quarterly interview of, hey, a performance review meeting, right? So I have a performance review meeting. I want to talk with that person. First of all, I don't think that this format is any good. So in my opinion, that should happen on a daily basis with your team lead and these kind of things. But that's a different story. So imagine you are in that one. You should see that as an opportunity on both sides, right? So the managing person should become a leader. So that's a leadership meeting. It's not really management, because just for the sake of telling you that's your performance, you could write an email. You can just have a quick team chat. You don't need to have this format where everyone is sitting down. You need to use that to make clear what will come. What is your role, what is my role, how we actually came to that, why are we here, and what do we need to change, and why is that so important, the intriguing part, the problem part. Why are you the protagonist here? Of course, if that is a meeting about you being laid off, there is no protagonist thing, right? So if you're a very
Story
good
there, yeah.
if you are a very good storyteller, you will help that person. I help you finding a new job, and you will have that's a protagonist thing again. But even though actually that happened, so from my own past as an employee, I had those situations. They are horrible, to be honest, to talk to someone. It's
Yeah.
over now. And I had the tendency, because of my leadership tendency, to help that person, because I maybe one or two times I wanted to really get rid of someone, because sometimes it happens. It's I don't know, it really happens not that often, but oftentimes it's like, you need to go, a person goes or something like that, or there's circumstances, a large client is gone or something like that, and it is a good thing to even pack that into a story, because that person on some point in time, your ways will cross again, right? And this person will remember the emotion it felt the first and the last time speaking with you, right? The first impression
Yeah.
always sticks, and the last impression sticks, which means that if you keep doing that and make that a habit, on some point a virtue, but a habit definitely, then you will change the way how you communicate in general. So people will always see some form of vision and hope, and we should follow him or her right in that moment, because people have a lot of fears. There's a lot of fear, right? There is a lot of insecurity, especially right now in the tech market. It's very much, what good comes in the future. So people who have a clear vision that the future won't be that bad, right? Even if we don't work together in the same company, but it won't be that bad. People want to hear this. People want to hear that there is hope, and someone who has the clarity to see through the noise, because we're living in a world of noise and insecurity, and the more insecurity and the more fear we have, the more noise we see. We don't see the signals anymore. That's the reason why I'm often talking about signals. So if you have that signal, if you can clearly see the things, communicate that to others. People need that, especially if you are the head of a company, the head of a department, and you have a clear vision. You know what's going on. You know what's going outside. You know the issues. Involve the people. You don't need to involve them into the entire details of the plan and numbers. No, but into the idea and the story behind that. Because if the people cannot relate to that, right, why should they become a part of that story? They're just doing their little thing there in isolation, and they'd just be afraid, even though they say, yeah, all is good, but in reality they are afraid
It
because
is
they are not.
not.
Yeah, they are disconnected, right?
And if I may add, there's also a lot of coaching involved in there. So you mentioned the one-to-one, you mentioned the storytelling. A leader has to ask the right question during a one-to-one meeting. Performance review. If you want to turn that into a career plan, or into, yeah, this is why you belong here, or this could be you in X months, there is coaching involved in there. So a good leader knows how to talk to people, how to ask the right questions, how to understand the last point you just mentioned, how to understand if they're afraid, if they are in trouble, if they trying to fit in but not necessarily belong. All these kind of things. They're not easy. They're not easy questions, but you need to be able to ask these things, in my opinion. So there is a lot of coaching involved in leadership, of course.
Coaching in two ways, isn't it? So coaching in form of you as a leader coach others, and you as a leader need coaching as well, isn't it? So would you agree to that?
Yeah. So it's always, so it's never like one, as I say, it's never one way. So it's you coaching, but also you understanding more from the feedback that you receive, and then these things, how you implement that in your own self growth. So it's again a continuous approach. It's continuous flow. Um, that's the way it should be anyway. So you never really get there. It's just you keep going, and you keep learning, and each interaction is an opportunity, in my opinion.
Mhm. So let's, as the last big topic, I think we should talk a little bit about the takeaways. So, what can listeners, viewers take away and improve today and tomorrow? So, I'm a big fan of discipline in the original sense, disciplina. So, you actually have an art, you love that art, you do that every day, and that's something you identify with, right? So which means that it is not like a big goal, you become that person who can do XYZ. It is more that you do that every day, and because you do that every day, you become better at it. So what can we do every day in small steps to improve their habit, the habitus of what we actually do there in terms of communication? How can we become better leaders? So the title of the stream, um, while focusing on communication aspects. So what would you give people there as, let's say, the best thing they can do tomorrow and today?
Yeah. So we said that a leader is an effective communicator.
Hmm.
And so essentially, if you want to communicate as a leader, you need to become an effective communicator. And to become an effective communicator, you need to work on all the areas we've touched: the, the language, the emotions, the intonation, the body, because communication goes on many different channels. And if you're also learning the language, or if you're improving the language, because maybe you want to be a leader in English, but English is not your first language, you need to also integrate that into the big picture. It sounds overwhelming, right? Because, oh, I need to improve my language, I need to use my body, I need to use intonation, and it feels daunting. But at the same time, it is not so, because it starts really small. One very powerful and effective task would be to start recording yourself. Similar to what we're doing now, right? We are recording ourselves. It don't necessarily need to have an audience, but recording on audio, on video, helps you sort of externalize what you're doing, because then you can rewatch
Mm.
and then you can pay attention to what you're doing. You can pay attention to the words. Okay, mistakes in grammar, not necessarily a problem, as long as it's clear what you want to say. And intonation, am I flat? Am I monotone? Yes, I am. Okay, so not good. I want to redo it. Am I using my hands? Can people see that I'm not like just a talking head? I have hands. I want to project my personality. Can I do that? All these little things, they come naturally from recording yourself. And so if you think about it, by recording yourself, you're working on the language, on the words that you're using, but you're also working on your intonation, on your body language, and why not on emotions? Can you convey emotions? Can you get people to say, yes, that's what I mean, or no, I don't agree, which is fine. You're triggering a negative emotion. That's okay. You can use that as well. Long story short, the bottom line is this is the one single piece of advice that would really make a difference. Yeah. You have, I mean, you can choose, you can keep doing your grammar exercises, then you can read books about being a leader.
Mhm.
You can understand and know how intonation works. But then if you don't put that in practice, nothing is going to change. So unless you have, let's say, speaking opportunities, which means like every week you go on stage somewhere and you speak, which is very rare,
Mhm.
the best single option you have is recording yourself. And you have to start very small, simple, small
Mhm.
steps. So the first thing might be describing something in your room. Very simple, but can you do it effectively? Can you
Mhm.
describe an object? I love the game Taboo. It's a famous game, right? And what I love about Taboo is that you need to help your team partner, your partner,
Mhm.
understand the word without mentioning that word and without using the taboo word. So essentially, you have to put up a long explanation that it's easy to understand and that can trigger the right answer. So that's a great exercise. That's a great game, and you can replicate it in your daily life. You see an object in your room and you describe it. What is this object? Oh, it's an object. You can turn it on, turn it off. You can make light with it. You can use it when you want to read at night. Okay, what is it? It's a lamp. Okay, but you start building your expertise by doing these things and doing these things in front of a camera. So, and that's the I don't know. If I had to give one piece of advice, it would be this: just go with it. Start really simple. Start by putting your ideas on paper and then building a short speech around that you can, and then later on you can add complexity, but
Mhm.
start really small. That's what I would say. So, and then once you build your ideas on paper, build your little speech around that, and then you can focus on your intonation, on the way you use your hands, the way you look at your audience. Yeah, but slowly you can implement these things. But start recording yourself today. That's what I would say.
That's habit building. So what we actually do, so we build habits to listen to ourselves, to reflect on what we do, accept our mistakes, and adapt, right, to make it better and stay in that loop. Now we then build those habits. It becomes normal. I do that, by the way, myself. Sometimes when I'm driving, I start to talk about the thing, even though
Why
there are no
not?
people there. So
Why not?
I do that. Um, but there's another issue that comes up after a while you're doing that, because you start, there is no direct feedback of someone else. You only listen to yourself because you are a specific person. You receive your messages always in the same way. There are people a little bit like they're complaining, like my wife, that telling that if I talk to you, you never let me talk. There are other people who never say anything, and if you don't have camera on or something like that, they already doing something differently because you have talked them down or waffled them down into you know into this state of being totally not interested anymore in what you have to say. And I remember that so many people say that you need to have a ratio in between, talking and receiving. So in some form of let's say discipline and um, like a competency of understanding what your ratio should be. What would the ideal for you would be? Like, you are in a conversation, you are a leader, and I think it's not the idea to stay then saying that in this interview again, or in this performance thing, and 90% of the time the manager is talking and the other one is just listening to a story. Is good, but I think that's overdone. I think, right? It's not the right way to do. So
Nope.
what are the limits when we talk and stay and want to actually stay in a common ground in a dialogue, as you explained in the beginning?
Well, I think it goes back to empathy.
Hmm.
So if you want to be there and you want to have a real conversation, so if you want to communicate, it's always this kind of a back and forth approach. So I have my message, but I want your feedback so I can react to it. Then you can receive my reaction, manipulate it, give it back to me, and that's a real exchange. So you have to have in mind this idea of the exchange, I think. I wouldn't be able to give you a golden ratio. I don't know, 50-50, 80-20. I don't know. There isn't a fixed one. It depends on the situation. It depends on the kind of communication. But you have to have this idea of an exchange in mind. And so that would be the next step, let's say. Imagine, so we mentioned recording yourself. The next step would be exchanging your recordings with someone else,
Hmm.
which probably it's a bit more difficult to do, but not so much. You might find people who are interested in the same kind of improvement, development as you are. And so say, why not exchange videos so you can give feedback? You make it asynchronous, so it's more manageable. But at the same time, you start building that sort of message feedback and the back and forth reaction, uh, also implicit to reaction to body, to intonation. Yeah, so you start building a better picture and you get another person involved, which means it is closer to reality. Yeah. So no golden rule, no golden ratio there. I don't know. But at the same time, I love this idea of the exchange. So I would always keep it dialogic as much as possible.
Dialogic, I like that word. I never heard that before, but it sounds great. um, I think I agree. So I don't think that there is a golden rule, as long as we have the respect to let the other person speak and talk. There can be a problem if you like to hear yourself speaking, and that is when you finally get to be comfortable speaking. You tend to speak a lot, and that's then the other extreme. And I know that people, it can have the opposite effect of what you try to do, because what you say makes sense but you don't involve anyone, right? So there is the storytelling part. It must come from you, because otherwise you're not a storyteller. But you need to, that it's a dialogue. People need to participate live in that story, in that envisioning of themselves. It's not like you're talking, everyone is going home, right? And I think that keeping things short often helps. So there was this time when I was recording, and I recorded very, very long videos, and every little short video I've done was 15 minutes, and YouTube only supported 60 seconds. And then I was so happy when they made 90 seconds or 3 minutes. It was 3 minutes.
I think it's 3 minutes now. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, that's so
Finally.
important, right? In reality, I wasn't able to really get my message down, so I started to clip just other things out, so it actually worked. And yeah, that's an interesting part. So actually sitting down there. I use Descript. I love Descript. It's a very good tool for people who talk a lot, do a lot of those talking head things. I think sitting down and telling yourself it must be a short thing, let's say working like in a pitch mode, right? So I have something to say. How can I pack it in under 1 minute, right?
Yeah.
And then you get to the point that you need 90 seconds, then you can cut it a little bit down and use it, but you want to become better every day. And I think if you train that, if you make that a habit, so it becomes a subconscious pattern recognition thing that you do that by yourself every time anyway, it is much easier for you to actually have a healthy cadence. Would you say that as well? Is it like
Yeah, and the second thing I would recommend is to introduce a timer. So that's what I usually say. Record yourself and then record yourself with a timer on. So give yourself a target. I must describe the main features of my room within 2 minutes, and then it has to be a clear introduction and a conclusion within the 2 minutes. So you build a habit there, really, because using a timer means you have a clear beginning and a clear end, and you're doing it. You're becoming more effective. So timer is another big one. So obviously I agree with you, because that was the second thing I was going to say. So
can I
use
set
a
a
timer.
timer in Descript? I need to take a look.
Yeah, I don't
Actually,
know.
I use the timer in reverse. It's like I'm following the time a little bit every time. So I start to develop a feeling for the time, which is important as well over time, because in
Exactly.
a real meeting with people, it's not like ding and like, oh no, okay, I need to stop
That's
you.
over. Yeah.
It's over now.
But you start with that. You start with ring ring. When it's time to stop, you just stop. So then you listen back. Is there an introduction? Is there an idea? Is there a conclusion? No. Okay. So it means that I'm not effective. So I want to redo it. You see, the timer helps because it also trains you to speak under pressure. Because when you see the time moving closer to zero, you start feeling the pressure. So can you still deliver even though time is running out? That's again another interesting aspect of working with a timer and with a camera. Loads of pressure, but if you survive, then you can speak under pressure, and your brain finds the resources.
Yeah, under pressure, that's always under pressure. You speak like you've learned it. It's a little bit like that. And if you haven't learned it, you just speak like you haven't learned it. And that's the simple reality behind that. I think another aspect of having a good dialogue, all right, if you're in a dialogue situation, is to understand, of course, your limitations, like what you have trained with your timer. So maybe stick below 90 seconds of speaking time, because otherwise people lose attention. These kind of things. Sometimes it can be longer, but most often it's not, especially in a dialogue when you actually discuss something. And then it's important to take a look at people. So it's much more difficult if you don't have camera on and you have an online conversation, or like a phone call. It's like you don't see the people. It's like when you already hear this, that other people really want to say something about that, and you keep on like pushing out your words, right? It's like, I want to say this right now, and that doesn't help anyone. Just say it, because the people don't really listen to you anymore, because they listen to what they have to say, which I think it's very important to follow your speaking partner, understand, or it's like I'm watching you right now. You're nodding, and sometimes it's like when you realize that the other partner becomes a little bit nervous, and you should stop, even though you aren't finished yet. Maybe it's not the best clip you produce there for the future, but stop. It will become a good dialogue. So I stop right now. What do you think about that?
Yeah, always consider the other person, of course. Yeah, you can't just pretend you just can't work only on your agenda, like, oh, I want to say this, and this is what I am going to say regardless. Always consider, is the feedback, look at your audience. Right now, the only audience I can look at is you, Adrian, right? But if you fall asleep while I'm talking, then I have a clear message that something is wrong with what I'm saying. If you get, as you say, if you get nervous, if you get distracted, that's the idea. But normally you would have more people. If you are in a team meeting, you would have at least 20 people, 10, 20 people in front of you. And you could see exactly how each one of them behaves while you're talking. And it means that some parts need to be faster, some parts need to be slower, some parts can be totally removed and turned into an email, because you see how people react, when you go through this long list of numbers, of percentages, and you see people fall asleep, they start doing something different. That's exactly it. And I did an event a few months ago, was last year, a live event. We organized it with other speakers, and the best feedback someone gave me after the event was, I didn't see anybody playing around with their mobile during the event. So it means that the event was good, was effective.
Interesting.
And exactly, I can see you're playing with your mobile now, but that's the idea, because people get distracted if you say something with not relatable, boring, with the wrong intonation. So they told us, yeah, the event was really effective, and I didn't see a single person playing with their mobile during the event. In 2025, which was last year, it's kind of an achievement because everybody plays with mobiles always, like nearly always. So yeah.
I was on an event, I don't want to tell which one, and I had a keynote there on first day, one of the 3 days. It was great, right? I was sitting in the audience, and then I knew, okay, I'm on the next one, and I realized that everyone was watching phone or had a laptop open and was actually working. It was a tech event. They were actually programming, and I was thinking, why am I sitting here and programming? And then I went on stage, and I saw that in the very beginning, they looked shortly up, right? Oh, there's a new thing. Okay, let's go back to my screen, right? And after the session, they started to look up because I used several of the techniques which we said, and I even overstretched a little bit my time there, but that was a different story. But it worked. They even said it to me, and in hindsight, so afterwards, I was talking to one of the managers there of that event, and they said, "Yeah, it's like most of the people sitting here are people sent here because it's a business incentive. They are not here because they want to listen to you. It's the best seat they can have to have a break and do their stuff." That's one of the issues of the main stage, and but I made that, or I thought I made it, because it looked like that all the screens went down. So you saw the white faces when people had those screens, and they started to look up. They started to think about what you have to say. And I think it just remembered me because of that. You can even get people out of the what they're doing if you use it in a correct way. If you need to be present there. You need to learn. You need to be confident there. And it's hard in the beginning, especially on stage, keynote. It's a little bit harder to stay confident. But on some point, you face out anyway and you do your stuff. You don't see the real people anymore, but you want to have this feedback of other people actually working with you or not. And you have the same with employees. You have the same with business partners. If you aren't able to read business partners and you see that, okay, I had that as well, that the business partner became so uninterested in what I have to say because I had to say something from another person. And then I said, forget that. I'm now talking my way and I don't give something about that. Suddenly the conversation went to speed, right? And that was important for me. And then I learned something very important for me is that you need to learn how you can, narrate and have this flow, this momentum, how you keep going that momentum, modulate your voice to get a little bit up on some point, and then really let the other speak again. Because if you build up the momentum and you don't involve anyone, that was a problem on that stage, that when I realized when you don't involve people into that conversation, you don't really speak to someone in the audience. Like I love Jimmy Carr, right? He's always involving people in hackles, right? Even though it's a taste of its own, but it's an involvement. So it never becomes boring. Everyone is listening because it's an involvement, it's a dialogue, right? And this is my big learning, is like you need to be able to do that storytelling and get that and use everything, but you need to involve the people as well. And if there's a business partner who is bored of you, make sure in the next moment that you involve him so it's not boring give, shared ownership. That's a business meeting we have together, involve the other people.
We're back to the first thing we talked about, is sharing. Two ways, it's never one way. So we're back to the roots, really, communication. So we can sort of end the way we started. It's two-way. There is message, there is feedback, there is reaction, there is hidden language, but it's never a one-way action. It's plainly impossible. You can't communicate in a vacuum. It doesn't exist.
How can people, to get you as a person who helps them to become better at those things?
People can get me on LinkedIn. It's the easiest way. And you'll have my details down somewhere. Yeah. I have a website as well where people can find free resources and some ideas to get started on challenging themselves to become better communicators, and the small steps. So it's www.danielepponzo.com. That's my website. And yeah, I also love talking about these things in my podcast with non-native leaders worldwide. So I always involve people to tell their stories, how they went through the learning journey that we described working internationally. So people can also follow the podcast. I think it's interesting, and people love sharing their stories. It's a lot about storytelling, of course. So it's something I love doing. So yeah, basically LinkedIn, website, podcast. These are all the ways people can reach out. And if looking for advice, ideas, I'm always available. As you say, as the good ones say, I'm always a DM away. I'm just a DM away. So, but seriously, I love talking about these things. So any questions, any tips, ideas, always happy to share, always happy to chat.
And I quickly wanted to give the people listening right now to that podcast, actually stream, because it's just an evening stream, but there was nothing on the agenda. I just asked, because I wanted to stream anyway. I do it spontaneously. So 5 minutes before the show, I need to take a look at what I do want to talk about today. And I asked simply Daniel, can you join? He didn't even know what the topic was. So he's one of the persons you can pull on the stage and he will deliver. He's a cleaner. When you know the book Relentless, he's a cleaner, which means he's a good coach for you, which means that if you have problems with communication, you toss it at him. He will give you a solution for that. If you follow, right, what he has to say, I'm pretty sure you become a better communicator, which is the reason why you should go to this guy and do some coaching with him. I think that's a good idea. Just wanted to say that. We have, what are the details in Substack? Patricia Juarez in Substack asked you if you have Substack details.
No, I haven't started that. And it's a pity, because I think Substack is a great place to be. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so not talking about New Year's resolution, but it was in my New Year's resolution. So it should happen soon. I have some longer pieces that I am sharing from my blog at the moment, but then they can be turned into Substack articles, definitely. So yeah.
I just give Substack your LinkedIn link. Sandeep, thanks. Great discussion. That's cool. There have been actually 20 people watching us across all channels. The interesting part, it was a communication thing, and we talked about that you actually need to communicate, and no one was communicating to us, but everyone was listening. So maybe we have done something wrong here. I don't know. Or we have done something right, because it's actually afternoon for most of the people. So
we should start putting people on the spot when we do this thing. So
yeah, I actually have done that in the past. We called that hotspots. It's a little bit like, hey, if someone was really communicating a lot in the chat, we send them a guest link, right? and then they just appeared and appeared on the stream, and everyone was, oh, what's that now? And we always hope that microphone and cameras are working these days, because that's not always the case. So it can be risky, but it's fun actually, because
It
the
is.
magic, the magic about streams is that it's live, it's personal, it's spontaneous in a way. Because what's really not nice is doing a stream with an agenda which feels like an interview online, which is live, which is strange. So there should be some form of discussion, because to be honest, there is so much AI slop going on social media right now, that actually listening to real people having something to say is actually something exciting these days.
It's premium. It's premium
That's
stuff.
premium
Adrian.
content, totally free for everyone here. Just
Definitely, yeah, definitely, yeah.
Okay, I hope that people could have taken something away from that. I will actually write an article about that. I actually write articles, so it's like I'm writing them based on the transcript. So I get what we talked about, and then I put it next to the podcast version of that one. There you will find all details of Daniele on my Substack and LinkedIn article, probably on Monday, because that was a good one. This could be a primetime thing to get all the learnings out of that. I really like that. You have a book. I mentioned
Yeah, forgot.
I have that as well. I read that. One of the rare, I don't really read books.
It's an actual book, yeah, with pages,
I can read, but I use Audible. So I have multiple hundred books on nonfiction and fiction on Audible. So I love to listen to it, because I now go for a run, and I will listen to some audiobooks probably. And but that book, I actually read it.
Good man.
Yeah, that's because it's, first of all, small. But that's good, because it's actually on point. There's no blah blah in that book. Exactly, it's small, and it's extremely well structured. It reads more like a documentation thing, which you scan through specific topics. You remember, that was a topic about that. How would Daniele actually solve this one? And you get some information about that. I always love to learn from other people. I challenge myself in that way, even though I'm a leadership person myself for 18 years now. I still love to do that, because that actually opens your mind. That's very important. And it keeps you from becoming biased. So you can be opinionated, but never become biased about the thing, because that's a downward spiral.
Yeah.
There are people doing communication different than I would do, but learning from Daniele and other communication coaches as well on LinkedIn is something I really enjoy. So I really recommend this book. You find it, I think, on Amazon. I think I got it.
It's on Amazon, yeah.
Yeah. Maybe I pack a link there as well.
Thanks. Yeah, that'd be
that's
lovely.
something I really can recommend. So thanks everyone for listening. I actually need to go now. We'll definitely see us again on stream someday in the future, and
absolutely,
we'll stream several times a week, so you can join that session basically on LinkedIn, Substack, and YouTube nearly every afternoon now. It's crazy, but I returned to the streaming roots because LinkedIn doesn't work anymore for me, actually. I don't know. But good. Thanks a lot. And
thank you. Thank you, Adrian. Everyone. Thanks, everybody.